I'm going to work faster. So response inhibition. This is how a child responds to anything, right? So this could be, does your child respond well playing with friends, right? You're on the playground and maybe they get bumped. How do they respond to situations? Is it over the top, right? Or is it maybe they don't respond at all? Or no, they're okay. And some of this stuff is when you're 5, you can have big emotions. You're allowed to do that, right? When you're 18 and you don't get what you want for dinner, is that the right response, right? Or something that is kind of in the family, right? Like you're talking about things at home and they're really feeling like they're not being heard. How do they respond? So here's some of the things. Being able to think before acting, right? That aggression sometimes comes out, especially for our younger kids when they're really overstimulated. Autism sometimes does have more aggression. ADHD, you see that a lot with kids because they can't control their body, right? So those outbursts happen more. So ways to improve some of those: take a break when you feel frustrated. That's so easy to say, right? When you say to a kid, okay, like, why don't you just take a break? Well, no, I can't just take a break and walk away. They just broke my Lego set, right? Or I didn't get the book I wanted, or what have you, right? So taking a break is wonderful to say, but how do you do that, right? Those are those baby steps that I'm going to talk to you later about on how to really support that, because it's easier said than done. Especially if you work with the population that I do, taking a break is wonderful when their intellectual ability can get to that point. Review directions before working. If you say at home, like, you need to do this and this before bed, make sure you're reminding them, right? Have a visual somewhere. So really setting up success for them so those responses to situations don't become so overwhelming to them. Counting in their heads. I love watching my little ones because you'll talk, say to count, and I'm like, okay, now feel your belly. In and out, right? And you see them, they're like trying really hard to do that. It's adorable. But it does work. It's really helping that parasympathetic nervous system to calm down. Okay, working memory. I love this one. Yes?
So we have a question. Isn't it also true that executive function issues such as ADHD can be present independent of modern changes, issues such as screen time, lack of dictionary, etc.?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a really good point. Yep. Working memory is, there's different forms of working memory, and a lot of people think like working memory is that time where you are applying things or skills to something that you've already learned, right? So working memory is really trying to remember, right? And it's pulling things from different files in the brain. That can be really hard if your processing speed is slower. So with executive functioning, a lot of times you have either gifted kids with slower processing speed, right? You have ADHD, right? And that's hard in itself because just organizing thoughts and breaking things down. So working memory works in a few ways. So it's using information held in memory to complete tasks. I know, like in a math problem, can I remember how my teacher taught me how to do this, right? Okay, I'm stuck. I can't remember how to do that. So what are tools to help kids with working memory? This is a big problem for a lot of students and for adults too. So it's really drawing on those past experience. This will go back to Baines. Sleep is key to your working memory. Your brain needs to charge itself at night. It needs to be able to take everything they've learned all day and regurgitate it, recharge, and really have that time for your brain to be ready for the next day. When kids don't have a good sleep cycle, their working memory is lower. Ways to help: highlighting, taking notes, really finding some good study skills, right? Or in this school, we don't do homework, so teaching them within the day how do you use that working memory? How are you building on those skills? And sometimes it takes a really long time, but in the end, they have a more positive result on that. Emotional control, it's the ability to manage emotions. Just a raise of hands, does anyone in this room have any kids that are on the spectrum in any way? Yeah, okay. So, anyone with dyslexia? Okay. So, those kiddos are big feelers. They feel so deep, so it's harder for them to control those emotions. And it's not their fault. They see the world in such an amazing different way than people that don't have autism or dyslexia. They think outside the box, but they feel so deep that it's harder for them to have that emotional control. So there's ways to work on that, for sure. Looking at them, going back to how's your body feeling right now? Where is that coming from? Giving them the language to put with the emotion, right? And that really helps them use the language versus overextending. And sometimes those types of kids do cry more often than others. And it's not because they can't control it, it's just that's a natural reaction to the way their brain works. Task initiation, breaking things down. A lot of parents come in and they're like, oh, my kid's just not motivated. And I'm like, well, it might not be about not being motivated. It could be more about the task is so daunting, they don't know how to break it down. So our youngest has a really hard time with cleaning her room. Anyone in here have a kid that is really bad at cleaning their room? Mm-hmm. So we started this process of, okay, her name's Kira. Kira, go put all your books away and then come see me. Pick up all your dirty clothes off the floor and then come see me. Mm-hmm. And when she breaks it down like that, she's able to conquer that task versus if I say, Kira, you need to go clean your room. I'm going to go upstairs and she's going to be sitting on the floor playing with her Legos and her feet in the air or doing whatever she's doing, right? And I'll be like, how's that room coming? Or the other part is she'll hear me coming up the stairs and just shove, right, everything under the bed, right? And so you know it's not clean, right? So breaking those tasks down even smaller. And it might seem like a pain in the tushy at first, but they're going to gain those skills, right? But visually, task initiation, it's so much, and they don't even know where to start, right? And it happens with homework, it happens at home with, you know what, I don't know if any of you have new drivers in the house, but we have someone that's learning to drive, and setting up drive time, right? It's the task initiation. I'm not going to seek you out, but you know you need your 70 hours of driving. How do we set that up, right? So you have to think about how you're breaking down these tasks. Sustained attention. So this one is hard. It's not because they don't want to focus. It is because there's so much stimulation going on around them that it makes it hard. And so noise canceling headphones, a quiet place for them to be. If you have kids that have phones, make sure that they're put away. Like, okay, from this time to this time, you don't have your phone with you. If you want to listen to music, turn on your Alexa or whatever you guys have. Planning and prioritizing. If you have kids in here that have dyslexia, planning and prioritizing is probably one of the hardest tasks for them. It is in writing. It is in language. Our world is all language-based, right? Majority of it. The way we communicate with each other, the way you build relationships. But when you have to plan and prioritize what you're thinking and write it down on paper, it is so incredibly hard for them. And this is that one area in executive functioning, if there's ways to support them at school or at home, chunking things up, really defining and breaking it down to the simplest form. So planning, today you're just going to write your title. Tomorrow we're going to talk about 2 things you want to focus on, and really breaking down that planning piece for them. I'm going to try to go faster because I only have another half hour with you guys. All right, organization. Binders are fine, right? if they know how to use them. Right? Folders are fine, right? Teachers are like, here's your folder, make sure you take one folder, right? Oh, that's great. My kid took that take one folder and shoved it in the bottom of the backpack, and I never got anything was there, right? Oh, did you sign that permission slip? No, didn't even see it, right? So find an organizational system that works, right? So I have kids that are completely electronic. They use Notion. That's their organizational system. I am somebody that needs the old-fashioned handwriting planner. I'm loving the lady that's sitting right here that's writing right now, because that would be what I was doing, right? So I have my calendar. My husband and family, we live by the Google Calendar. If it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen. So I have to transcribe everything, right? That's what works for me. Color coding works for one of my other kids. So finding what works versus saying, this is what works for me, you're going to try that, because it might not work for your kid, and then it's going to fail. Time management. So that's such a hard topic, because you, for so long, manage your kids' time. And then we get to this age, and they have to now all of a sudden be expected to know how to manage their time. We don't prep them through the ages, even in school, on how to manage their time. So they have this idea, oh, I can get my homework done, and then I can go to Johnny's house, right? Well, that homework might take 2.5 hours, or I need to get to my appointment, right? And my high school kids are always fashionably late, right? The moment they get their license, they come in late for school, late for their appointments, because they haven't learned how to manage their time, right? And that is a really big thing for a life skill for adults. And we have many adults that, oh, if I'm 5 minutes late, I'm just fashionably late, right? And then you have the flip side who, for me, I'm always like 10 minutes early because, God forbid, I'm late, right? Flexibility. For my kiddos that are on the spectrum, that is a really hard thing to do, because it creates control. If a kid is in control, they know that they don't have to feel anxious. They know what to expect, right? But when they have to be flexible, that's making them vulnerable, right? That's making them vulnerable with their peers and with you. And that's putting them in a place where they're not sure what to expect. And so for some of those black and white thinkers, this is really hard. There's many ways to support flexibility, but that's a whole nother topic that we don't have time to talk about tonight. Metacognition, that's looking at things from a bird's eye view. Can they reflect on themselves? I did this action and it really hurt my friend. Or I really wanted to make this card for somebody to make them feel better. Can they sit back and see the bigger picture? Or for my high school kids, when I'm taking classes in high school and I really don't want to put that time in, is it going to affect me later on when I apply for college? Or what is, when I graduate, what is my plan? Right? Even if you don't want to go to college, okay, that's fine, but what's your plan, right? And that's a very daunting thing. This is a part of the frontal lobe, and the frontal lobe is not fully developed until mid-20s, right? So this is an area where it is very hard to have full control over this. Goal-directed. We work on SMART goals in here every week. And what is the goal? And some of them are, I'm going to write an essay, and that's their SMART goal for the year, right? Or I'm going to pass in all my homework this quarter, right? Whatever that is, they have a goal that's for them. And if every human should have a goal, because we're always growing, right? You never stop growing. We always should be making goals for ourselves to self-improve. And so when someone doesn't have this, I want to know why, right? And are they anxious? Are they unsure? Do they just need somebody to help process with some of that? And so that's something to really look at if you do have older kids in this room. Stress tolerance. We live in a very stressful environment. This is the highest one that every assessment I do for executive functioning, this one always comes up. Even with the best support at home. It's just, we expect, our expectations. We live in a busy society, right? There's always something. And so it can be social stress, environment stress, stress that they put on themselves, self-expectations. So this is an area that I spend a lot of time focusing on with my kids in the building, in my private practice, and with my own family, because this has such an effect on the body.
Hi, this is Jessica, and I would like to thank you for watching. I do hope you found it helpful to your life situation. If you ever wish to talk about our wild programs, please reach out by contacting me through my email address or our contact form on our website. I do hope you are having a wonderful day.